Last month, my main dropshipping store made 125K. My coaching business made an additional 65K. And I'm currently working on a new golf clothing brand that, when ready, will absolutely knock your socks off, and I will easily sell it for 8 figures 10 years down the line. It's going to be my passion project. And you may be wondering, Ethan, how do you possibly have the time in the day to do all these entrepreneurial endeavors while still being so jacked, so humble, so well dressed, a PGA level golfer who also shoots guns and is taking your own mother on a romantic trip to Lake Tahoe this week for my birthday? Thanks again for the birthday wishes down below. But you may have a new stepdad by the end of the week. And the reality is, I'm a time wizard. I just understand time at such a deep fundamental level that you can never even process it. I just have that dog in me. But today I want to teach you how to also have that dog in you so that you can be as productive as me and be the most well-versed entrepreneur that gets as much shit done as possible. Because it truly isn't something that is innate. It is a skill that you develop and you cultivate through having the right environment around you. And I want to teach you how to have the right environment, how to avoid the distractions that are currently plaguing you right now. Because if you have trouble watching videos like this that are unedited, or you have to play them in the background while you're working or doing some other tasks, like, I don't know, jerking off, playing video games, or whatever stupid crap you're doing right now, then you have the number one problem right now that will prevent you from ever being successful at any business. And if you don't solve it, you will be stuck forever, which is terrible, because the reality is it only takes about 2 to 3 hours of focused, productive work to change your life, which all of you have. You are not the president. You are not Oprah. You are not Taylor Swift. If you have time to watch this video right now, you have the time to focus on work that changes your life. As an example, my student Tim that I recently just interviewed, that scaled from 0 to 100K in 3 months as a complete beginner. He had no prior experience with dropshipping. Once he had the right strategies, fundamentals, and coaching that taught him what to prioritize, what to focus on, he was able to change his life in 3 months. Now, is that realistic for everyone? No. But even if you put 2 to 3 hours a day of work into something for a year to 2, you will still change your life. But how do you get into flow state? How do you prioritize the right things? And how do you cultivate the morning routine, the work schedule, all of that of a successful 7-figure entrepreneur? Well, I'm going to teach you what I've learned. And I'm going to teach you what my mentors have taught me, and basically what's worked for me and all the problems I had to overcome to get to this point in my entrepreneurial journey, because it did not start like this. Now, the number one problem that you currently have that is preventing you from being successful at dropshipping or any business model is simply your mind. Especially as young entrepreneurs, I tend to notice the dopamine in their brain is what is preventing them from being successful. You have just triggered your brain to have such a high threshold for dopamine that actually gets you excited that you have to do all these crazy things. You have to multitask by watching a video while working. You have to play video games. You have to party, you have to do drugs, you have to do all these vices just for your brain to fire this pleasurable sense of dopamine. You've just created such a high bar. It's a lot like drinking, where the more you drink, the more you build a tolerance, and the more you have to drink just to get to that level of buzz or blacked out, whatever it is. You build a tolerance. Same thing with dopamine. And what you realize as an entrepreneur is that if you've trained your brain to only fire at such a high level of dopamine, like Instagram, your phone, all of the things that are just designed to suck your attention and make you think that your life is amazing, you're never going to be able to do the hard work. And as a young entrepreneur, the number one problem you're having is that you can't do the hard work. You lose motivation. So how do you gain that motivation? How can you make the work exciting? Well, in my opinion, I believe you have to do a dopamine detox. You have to cut out the activities that are not beneficial to your life, that are giving you this high sense of dopamine, because your brain doesn't know any better. Your brain has no context. And the best study on this was with rats, where a rat was placed in a maze and it had an option to either eat food that was necessary for it to live, or it could press a button that, when pressed, would fire this electron into its brain that hit its pleasurable center for dopamine. So basically, hit the button, dopamine release, ratgasm. And every single time, the rat would just keep hitting the button over and over and over again, and it wouldn't even eat food because your brain has no context. And it's a lot like whatever vice is currently controlling you right now. You may think, oh, what a dumb rat. But right now, look at you. You're watching YouTube videos. You're on social media. You're on dating apps. You're playing video games. You're partying. You're drinking. You're doing all these vices that you know are not good for you. You know they're not beneficial, but you keep doing them instead of the work. You keep watching TV. You keep watching movies. You keep doing all these other things, yet you can't do the work. And why is that? What is the true fundamental root cause of that issue? Your brain has been trained to have such a high level of dopamine that it can only really be happy and only enjoy life when it is being stimulated to such a high degree that is just honestly unattainable with any natural traditional work. It's just not possible. And that was my problem. When I wanted to do the work, I couldn't do it, especially when I was younger. Because for me, my main vice was video games. I was constantly playing video games, 8 hours a day in middle school and high school. But then that wouldn't do it for me. So I needed to play video games while also watching movies at the same time. I was the textbook iPad kid, addicted to screens, totally lost. New generation, we're screwed. I was 100% that stereotype. And it got to the point where, yeah, I really couldn't focus on the work. It was bad. I had been broke many times because of it. I've had periods where I couldn't work for months because I was addicted to dating apps, even as recently as a year ago. I've had periods. After my breakup, I was on dating apps nonstop, just looking at girls, swiping, sending the greatest pickup lines in Hinge ever, getting about a 10% response rate, split testing different lines to see which one would get the best open rate, and then close. I think of it like a funnel. But man, it was rough. It was definitely rough. And you have to realize dopamine isn't going to bring you happiness or fulfillment. Doing what you love might not be the best move for you because what you love may not necessarily be the most beneficial to you or be the thing that you'll make the most money doing. So in a lot of cases, you have to trick your brain to loving something, even if it gives you less dopamine than doing something else. And how do you do that? Well, you have to desensitize yourself a little bit. You have to detox the dopamine, which means you have to audit your life. You have to understand what activities are right now controlling my life that are not beneficial to me, that are causing these high spikes of dopamine. Is it, yes, the video games, the partying, the drinking, whatever vice you currently have, and you have to cut it out. It's going to be incredibly difficult. In the first few days of you doing it, you're going to break. You're going to have cracks. But if you can stack more days where you don't do the activity than days that you do, then that is progress. And slowly but surely, you will be able to cut that activity once and for all. For me, when my main vice was video games, the thing that I had to do is I had to get rid of it. I gave my PS5 to my best friend. I said, here, have it. He loved me. He hugged me. And for him, it was the greatest thing in the world. For me, I realized that device was the thing that was preventing me from being successful because I had no control. It was controlling me. I was the rat that was pressing that dopamine button over and over and over again, even though I knew it wasn't beneficial to me. And I couldn't control myself. So I'd say the first step to being the best version of the entrepreneur that you can possibly be is addition by subtraction. To cultivate an environment where you can't be distracted, which in many cases means that this thing right here, this that is holding you hostage, that is keeping you a slave, that is keeping you as a rat, that is pressing that dopamine button over and over and over again, this is that tool that is not beneficial to you in any way. Honestly, social media, I've deleted all of it. Unless you use social media for business, you really shouldn't have social media. What is it actually doing for you? Oh, I can keep up with my friend's vacation to Cabo. No one cares about your friend's vacation to Cabo. No one cares about what your friends are doing. The reality is your friends aren't doing anything interesting or anything that will actually matter to you in your own life. And you have to be a bit selfish. You have to be a bit egocentric if you want to be successful. Every single successful entrepreneur is incredibly selfish. They have to be. You have to make sacrifices. And if you think you can just get it all without having to make any sacrifices whatsoever, then you live in a fairy tale land. And maybe you'll get a little bit of success while still having all these things around you, but you will know deep down, you are not being the most productive version of yourself. It's not possible. Now, in terms of addition by subtraction, let's talk about environment. As we mentioned, phone, airplane mode. If you want to listen to music while working, that's totally fine. Make sure it has no lyrics, because if it has lyrics, that will occupy your brain. You can't fully focus. So a lot of times lo-fi beats are the best things to listen to while working, because it will get you in that flow state where you're not focusing on the music. It's still giving you a little bit of a hit of dopamine, but you're able to actually focus. So you want your phone away. You want to know what tasks you need to get done, and ideally want to write that down. You don't want to have to look on your computer. You don't want to have to look on your phone. Write it down, pen to paper, so you actually memorize it, and you can look at it throughout the day knowing, okay, during 9 to 11, this is what I need to work on. From 11 to 1, this is what I need to work on. Every single successful billionaire entrepreneur time blocks their day, knows exactly what they're going to be doing every single minute of the day. On top of that, you need to cut out what other distractions are currently plaguing you, which means if you're on your computer working, that's a good start, but there may be distractions on your computer. It could be Facebook, it could be YouTube. There are different plugins that you can have that will block these from ever happening. If you have to look something up on YouTube, there are tools that will block the recommendation of new videos, so that way you stay focused, you stay productive, you stay on task. And it sounds crazy that you have to do all these things, but only you know what problem you have. And if those are genuinely a problem, then you have to create systems to block those problems from happening, to solve them once and for all. Now, I really do believe for most of you, the biggest problem after talking to so many entrepreneurs is going to be your phone. 100%. So how do you make your phone unappealing to you? For me, personally, what I did is I had to delete the dating apps. I had to delete the social media apps. I had to grayscale my phone. I had to turn it to the point where my phone was so freaking dry, like the Sahara Desert, that I didn't even want to look at it because I had really no reason to. And that decision alone, I made about a year ago, and I'd say it has completely transformed my life. Sure, I do post on TikTok and Instagram. I'm not the one actually doing that. I have a team that does that. Because I know if I'm the one that does that, I will go down the rabbit hole. These apps split test every single little feature and every single little thing. They spend billions of dollars in R&D to get you sucked into their app because they make money the longer you stay on them. They are a trap. They are going to design that to keep you in the rat maze, and you don't even realize it. Sure, it gave you that funny video. Let me keep scrolling. Let me keep scrolling. Let me see if I can find something else that gives me that same level of dopamine. And when you train your brain to do that, you can't do the hard work. So for me, that's how I made my phone as unappetizing as possible, even though it is a very delectable delicacy. I know. Let's talk about morning routines now. So I invested into a program by Craig Ballantyne, who's pretty much the morning routine guru expert. And I learned a few things from it. Mainly being the best morning routine that you could ever have is one where you wake up and you immediately start working on the number one task that you have to get done. The more that you can lower the time from waking up to actually doing that first task, the more successful you'll be. If that gap is an hour from when you wake up to when you first start working, then you know you have work to be done. You know you can make progress because you want this gap to be as small as possible. Now, how do you do that? Well, audit your day and what are you doing from when you wake up to when you first start working? Is it that you're checking your phone, you're checking your text, you're checking social media? It's most likely that. So that means when I wake up, I most likely am going to need to be old-fashioned and get a regular alarm clock so that way my phone is outside my room. Personally, that's what I had to do. I couldn't control myself. It's very difficult. So I had to create that system. Now, what other things are you doing? Are you going outside, getting some sunlight? That's great. Train your body. Show it that it's actually awake, that it is daytime. Then you have to make some food? Sure, go ahead and do that. All those activities are perfectly fine. Maybe you do some stretching. Maybe you pet your dog. Maybe you have your own little routine. But you don't want to have this super complex morning routine where you have to do 2-3 hours worth of meditation and journaling and, I don't know, praying to Livy Dunn every single morning just before you can trick yourself that, okay, now I've done enough to finally get into work. The more things you add, the more tasks you add before doing the work, the less likely you are to actually do the work. You want to limit that threshold, that barrier of starting and gaining momentum throughout the day. And the way to do that is try to work as soon as possible. That was the secret. I paid $1,000 to learn that. You're welcome. That is Craig Ballantyne to a T. Now, the other things he says are don't have caffeine 12 hours before bed. Always go to bed at a similar time than the day before. So try to set a set time. Okay, go to bed at 12, wake up at 8. Go to bed at 11, wake up at 7. Whatever it is. Try to get 8 hours of sleep. Other things, of course, getting exercise, 30 minutes, 60 minutes a day, whatever that threshold is. If you start at 30 minutes, that's perfectly fine, but then try to work your way up. And you have to figure out when you can properly budget that time for working out. So is it in the morning or is it in the afternoon? I know for 6 years I was always a morning workout person, but then it was hard for me to be consistent waking up early. So I had to build it now later on in my schedule where I work out at night. And that's worked perfectly fine for me this year. It's definitely helped me become more consistent compared to any other time in my life. In terms of any other things that I really learned from that, he recommends the way to build the habit of working on that first task in the morning is start with only 5 minutes a day. So you wake up, immediately start working, and maybe you can only do about 5 minutes of work, and that's perfectly fine. The next day, do the same thing, then work 10 minutes, then work 15, then try to get to 30, then try to do it for an hour, and then that's when you really get to that point where you are the most productive version of yourself. You build up to it. It doesn't happen where you wake up and then you work for an hour straight out of bed. You have to build up to it. But that's essentially everything when it came to Craig Ballantyne. Now, outside of that, you also have to figure out when is the best time for you to work and prioritize the most important things to you. Because for certain people, working in the morning or working in the afternoon is when you know you get your most productive work done. I know for me, around 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., I get some really good work done. That is my most productive time block throughout the day. Anything after 6, I'm lollygagging. I am bamboozled. I am just doodling. It is not my best work. So usually during those times, that's when I'm working on my clothing brand. That's when I'm working on real estate, stuff of that nature. That's more secondary to me. But when it comes to the real meat of my day, the actual things that I have to get done, like filming these videos, I'm going to do it right now. This is the time to do it. I know my high priority task has to get done during this time block, and only you know what works best for you. Maybe you're a night owl. Maybe you're a morning person. I don't really know. Only you do. Now, other things you can do, and we'll wrap up this video because I think you kind of realized how to create that best environment around you and how to be the most productive version of yourself. But there's a few other things I do believe I've missed, which are using a planner. Now, I've mentioned this planner quite a few times. I'll link it down below. Comment down below if you actually want the link to it. And it's called, I believe, the something entrepreneur, Jack Tan, humble entrepreneur, Ultra Chad journal for Giga Chads. And in this journal, oh, here we go. It's called the Finisher's Journal. Finisher's Journal 3.0. Now, in this journal, it basically allows you to plan out your day like a 7-figure entrepreneur. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means you can prioritize whatever tasks are most important to you. You can prioritize your secondary tasks, and you can also time block. So I'll just show you as an example right here. On the left, here is the priority of your tasks. Here's your time blocking. And then on the right, I mainly brain dump all the different tasks I have to get done, and then I will label and prioritize which one are most important to me. Simple. And what I will do every single night is I will think at around 10 or 11 when I'm wrapping up the day and I don't want my phone, you don't want the phone at least an hour before bed, no blue light, is I will write in my journal, here are the things I want to get done. And out of those things, what's the most priority? All right, it's this. Cool. That's going to be the first thing that I put on my schedule when I'm time blocking. From 9 to 11, 9 to 12, whatever time I believe is needed to allocate to do that task, that is going to be done first. Because if I do that task and I get nothing else done throughout the day, it was still a win. I still made progress. Because the reality is you're not going to be able to do everything on your schedule. I usually will write out 3 to 7 things. I mainly do about 2 to 3 that I actually complete. Now, the other things I'll work on, make some progress, but you're not going to be able to complete every single task. So if you're a dropshipper, that usually means what are the highest priority tasks? It's doing product research. It's building product pages for the products you've already approved. It's building ads and creating ads for the products that you've already approved, and then testing those ads and checking your ads. Those are the 5 things. You should only be doing those 5 things. There's nothing else you need to do unless your name is Bobo the Clown and you just want to waste your time. You shouldn't be watching more videos. You shouldn't be watching more strategies unless you feel like, okay, I've been doing this for a few months to a few years and I still haven't gotten the results I wanted, which in that case, that will be a lack of knowledge and a lack of a blueprint, which, hey, if you want to change that and solve that problem, it's pretty easily fixed. You just need to invest into someone who's already gotten a roadmap, who already has a blueprint, which could be me, could be someone else that you love that already has their own results and has student results as well. And once you learn from them and you invest into their program, boom, that problem is solved. And all you need to solve now is the problem of being able to focus. So when I was really doing dropshipping full time as my main only business endeavor, usually how my schedule would look is every single day, first task, I would focus on my ads, whatever ads I'm currently running, making new ads, because that is the highest priority task, actually scaling your business, which is offers, creatives, those 2 things in media buying. Product research is a secondary task. Although obviously the product is everything, it is the most repetitive, monotonous task that really at the end of the day, if you learn how to market, the product doesn't matter as much. The product only matters if you don't know how to market. So for me, product research was a little bit down the line. Customer support, doing order fulfillment, all that stuff down the line. Those are secondary tasks. Do that at the end of the day. But the main priority was, okay, whatever products I want to test, I need to make those new creatives. I need to get those new websites and product pages launched. I need to get those new campaigns launched. So I'd prioritize whatever tasks I need to get done there. So if I have a new product, I need to get prepared. All right, today we're going to start working on that product page first. Then we'll work on the ads second. Then we'll get it launched third. Now I may only be able to finish the product page and get a few ads done for that day. Then tomorrow, all right, cool. Keep working on the ads, launch it for tomorrow. If you can do that, you'll be able to consistently test 2 to 3 products every single week. And typically what I notice is that for beginners that are doing this process of trial and error, it'll take about 20 to 30 products, maybe 40 if you do it on your own. Now, if you have a coach, if you have someone that's actually teaching you and picking the products for you and telling you how to market and teaching you what quality level you need to be at for your website and your creatives in order to actually thrive and have that product work for you, probably be around 5 to 10 products. So you do skip that learning curve a bit. It's up to you what challenges and what journey you want to have. But that's essentially it. You time block, you know what to prioritize, you put it in here. When you're working at your desk, make sure it's as distraction-free as possible, addition by subtraction. Get out anything that could get in your way and steal your attention from what is currently the most important thing. Then from there, when you're not working, try not to trick your brain to all these other artificial dopamine triggers, which are the video games. It's all these other things. Now, if you can do it in moderation, fine. I play video games still to this day. However, I've trained my brain for it to not really fire as much. And it's not like I said, brain, don't fire. It just kind of happens naturally. Because when I got rid of the video games, it was really difficult for me. That first week was brutal. That first month was brutal. I was like a drug addict, genuinely. I was scratching. I was fiending for FIFA. I was fiending for Call of Duty. But what you realize is, while it will be difficult and while you won't be the most productive version of yourself initially because you'll still be having those withdrawals, and it does feel like withdrawals, after about a week and after a month, you realize I can live without it. It doesn't have as much a control as me than I thought. When you delete the social media app and you're no longer knowing what your friends are doing at every single second of the freaking day, you realize, oh, I wasn't really missing much. Even if you re-download it 4 months later, you realize I didn't actually miss anything. My friends really aren't doing as much as I thought they were doing. Being invested into their lives probably was a bad use of my time instead of my own. And I think I would rather be a producer than a consumer. I'd rather other people consume my life rather than me consuming theirs. At least if you want to optimize for having the most interesting, fulfilling life. So it will be tough. The sacrifices will take time. You will slip up. But if you stay consistent, if you realize I'm doing this for the greater good to live a life that is actually meaningful, that has purpose, that makes use of the God-given potential that I have in me, then you will win. It is inevitable. But you have to build the discipline. You have to make the sacrifices. You can't have anything worth achieving if it was easy. Because the most cliche quote of all time, if it was easy, everyone would do it. So I wish you the best in your journey. I hope this video helped you out. And if you have any other questions or topics you would like me to yap on about, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video.